Pastor tricked my band into making him look good, so we shamed him in front of the entire church. My church's youth group has a youth band that leads worship during youth, but the church also has them lead worship on Sunday mornings every few weeks, to promote the youth band when the usual worship team has a week off. I'm not in the band, but I often help with lyric PowerPoints along with another girl, but not when the band plays on Sundays. The main singer of the youth band is the daughter of a youth assistant, and the daughter is an assistant too. We'll call her Emma, she's 20. I'm writing because of what happened the last time the youth band led Sunday worship on June 30th, that led to Emma and her family leaving the church. In between one of the songs, Emma said she felt led to say that Christian nationalism wasn't of God because forcing people to believe went against the basis of Christianity because God gave free will and too many Christians forgot that. She also said there would be no short and narrow path if people were forced to walk it, before saying Project 2025 was advertised as Christian but resembled nothing of God because God never forced people to believe in him. No one confronted her or anything as it was brief, and they played a few more songs along with a closing song after the pastor finished his sermon. But when we got to youth on Friday night, Emma and her mother weren't there. And we were later informed, by the youth pastor, that Emma and her mom would no longer be helping the youth before a bunch of stuff about giving others the chance to be lead singers because Emma had left the church. However, word got out from one of the band's players that Emma told the band that she got banned during the week and that her parents left the church with her, so they already knew before we found out at youth. The reason I'm making this post is because of a conversation I had with the band, another PowerPoint girl, the same Friday the youth pastor announced it, and the conversation was private from the rest of the kids. Long story short, the band is upset about what happened to Emma, and they've been throwing around ideas on what to do. The one they're heavily considering is a walkout the next time they're scheduled to play on Sunday after playing the intro song. Service opens with an intro song before someone comes on stage to welcome everyone before worship continues, and they would voice support for Emma before walking out together. They haven't told anyone not associated with the band because they don't want anyone to spill the deets. But the main thing we're debating is repercussions from our parents and whether or not it's worth the risk. There's likely a few weeks until the band plays on Sunday again, and they still haven't decided on a new lead singer yet. I also want to add that the church didn't upload the worship portion of the service with Emma and only uploaded the sermon from that day. They always include worship on their YouTube upload of the service. Most of the concerns were around tuition punishments, as some of them have their parents helping pay, but they still want to do something. And while I'm not in the band technically, aside from coordinating PowerPoint lyrics occasionally, I figured the least I could do was get advice from other adults anonymously because we don't want to ask our parents for obvious reasons, and maybe others could see more pros and cons that we can. I appreciate any advice that anyone gives and will relay it to the band too. Thanks to anyone who read this too. Now for a few important comments. I am not Christian, but standing up to the tyranny of Project 2025 is the most Christian thing I've heard. That sounds exactly like what you should be doing against something that represents hate and violence. Christian nationalism is why many people are starting to make fun of or roll their eyes at Christian values. Because from what we see, Christian nationalism is the exact opposite thing Jesus would want or support. I don't believe in him, but I do think God/Jesus would be proud of you. You sound like a good person. Hey. I hope you see this despite all of the responses. I was raised Catholic. I consider myself otherwise now, but that is how I was raised, and I was an altar server and lead singer for Mass. I was very involved in my church. My priest was an amazing human being who never brought politics into service. He was so kind and so caring to everyone in the community. When I lost my faith, he was an amazing person to talk to, and he never shamed me. That being said, other people in the church hated this about him and became vocal about it. It was exactly this political behavior that made me turn away from the church in the first place. I thought it was horrible to mix politics and faith. I strongly disagreed with it and wanted no part in it. I started exploring the history of my faith and other faiths. I wanted to know why. Why were we trying to dictate people's lives, when Jesus told us not to? Why were we cruel to the poor and the sinful, when Jesus' message was to forgive? Why, when the church had so much wealth and power, did they wield that power like a club, forcing themselves onto the vulnerable and desperate? In the end, it is all about control. Whether you believe in God or not is one thing. But believing in the church is to believe in a man-made organization. Flawed people created these institutions, and like people, they are flawed, too. A community organization has the power to uplift as much as it has the power to control and beat down. And that is what it all comes down to, doesn't it? Your friend could not be controlled. So they kicked her out. And now here comes the big question. Knowing all of this, can your conscience be at peace if you stay silent? When I was your age, I could not. Do what you believe is truly right, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable. You will always become better for it. Now for the 2-week update. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post because it was way more than I expected, and many of you had really helpful advice. This is a small update with some really surprising things that happened since. First, the band is still going through with the walkout, and they're keeping it within the band so that no other kids tell their parents who might tell leaders. It would have been awesome to include others, but the risk of the church catching wind was too great. Second, we have a date of 8/4 when the youth band will do worship for the adults again. Third, the youth pastor appointed a singer from within the group who will take turns singing on Sundays with future participants in the coming weeks. The new singer agreed that the church's handling of Emma was BS. Two of the band members told non-religious relatives about the situation and fear of punishment, and they agreed to come to the service and let them head to their cars in the parking lot straight from the walkout for safety. They won't leave the lot in case some parents try to claim kidnapping, but will be in their cars if all goes well, and the rest of us are going to ask our relatives too. One of the band members told a teacher they knew from school who's thinking about coming and walking out too. And one of the band members wrote a little something that the lead singer will read before they walk off stage, and it would be great if anyone with editing experience could help to make it clearer or provide advice on what to add. They tried to keep it short. I will make a post about their write-up in the near future. Here's how we hope it happens. The band will play the opening song, which officially starts the service and usually lets people know it's starting. Many make their way from the foyer during the intro song. After someone gives the welcome/prayer after the opening song, the lead singer will give the speech before the band walks off stage, and I will walk out with them from the pews along with relatives and friends. One relative said she might bring some people she knows too, which could make more of a statement to the church to see adults leaving too. One of the relatives will also record the whole thing in case any parents don't react well to it, and I will update after it happens. If anyone has any further advice, it would be appreciated, and I'll bring it to the band. Most of the band, outside of two seniors, aren't old enough to vote this year, but this is a chance to stand up for what's right against something that is adamantly infusing itself into Christianity, Christian nationalism, and making Christianity lose all of its respect in our opinion. We don't expect change to happen in the church as a result of our walkout, but it's a small thing we can do to say we did our part when faced with it ourselves. Another commenter put it best when she asked if we'd be able to live with ourselves if we did nothing, and the answer has been no for us so far. I also want to add something I forgot to clarify in my first post. Emma didn't say what she did out of the blue. She had been vocal about the pastor talking politics for some time according to the band, and I've seen much of it too. However, a lot of people sent DMs disagreeing with the band's decision. So before I get into it, I want to give specifics of what the pastor has done. The pastor mentioned Trump from the pulpit numerous times, including the aftermath of the 2020 election, to voice discontent over the results. He has also celebrated Roe v. Wade's overturning from the pulpit, Pride Month during June, and even compared Trump's legal trial to how Jesus was persecuted leading up to his crucifixion, things that have no place being vented about from the pulpit, and this has happened over the course of a few years. I received a few DMs in the aftermath of my first post, and some were encouraging while others not so much. A few people who said they were Christians said that Emma was wrong to use the microphone to hijack the service with her words because she should have talked to the pastor first while calling her actions immature. However, when I showed the band the advice from my posts, I also told them about the DMs, and they said that Emma spoke to a leader about the pastor's political sermons in the past. But nothing came from it as he continued to speak politics from the pulpit frequently. Some people also said that our walkout wasn't godly because we, like Emma, would be hijacking the service for a publicity stunt when church was supposed to be about God. Some people called us immature among harsher things. But we disagree for two reasons. First, who is supposed to call out the misuse of the pulpit if not people who attend the same church where it's misused? A few DMs said to do nothing and pray for God to change the pastor's heart, but he's been doing this for years. And second, the Bible gives guidance on how to call out improper behavior in the church in Matthew 18:15-17. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over, but if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church, and if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Emma has already talked to a leader one-on-one, and the band has voiced displeasure about Emma's ban to the youth pastor, only for him to disagree and say that Emma was out of line. Regarding the part about tell it to the church, I suppose the how might be up to interpretation. Maybe telling the church means telling a church leader instead of the congregation on stage. But Emma and the band have talked to various leaders, including an elder too, aside from our youth leader, only for years of political rants from the pulpit to continue. When Jesus flipped tables in Matthew 21:12, we believe he did it because people were using the temple to sell things that had nothing to do with God, and we believe that politics falls into the same boat. I still plan to speak with my parents ahead of the event, and I'll share the write-up the band is working on really soon. I really appreciate everyone who commented too. Lastly, I want to clarify that the walkout is the band's decision entirely. I am not a member of the band, I just do PowerPoint lyrics during youth, and I'm not even in the band's group chat with Emma. As some of the band members are contemplating punishments from parents, 2 seniors who are concerned with their parents removing tuition help, I will support whatever they decide while understanding that they have to take care of their future too. If they decide to continue with the walkout, I will support them and walk out from the pews. But if they change their mind because repercussions are too great, I will respect that and continue to support them. Now for a few important comments. First commenter, my views on religion and churches is a whole other thing. I'm impressed by the conviction to your sense of right and wrong and your need to not sit by while someone spews falsehoods from their platform, a platform which Christians will claim is supposedly a place from which love and truth emanate. Much respect to you and yours. Those telling you to pray on it and that it isn't your place are cowards. Being afraid to rock the boat is how religions get twisted. It sounds like your church is well down the slippery slope of becoming a cult to a guy who, when asked about his favorite Bible verse, responded vaguely, like he hasn't read the book. Then Op replied, I was a little surprised when a few of the people who called themselves Christians in the DMs even used profanity against my first post, but change doesn't happen unless it's addressed, and it's not like Emma and the others haven't addressed it with numerous leaders over the years. Another commenter said, it is worth remembering that the original idea behind separating church and state was to protect religion from being tarnished by politics. The underlying idea was that religion is a garden that must be protected from the wilderness of the world. This church seems to be a prime example of that necessity. I have a lot of respect for all of you for taking this stand. Christian nationalism has no place in the church. It is completely against the teachings of the Bible. Stand strong in what you are undertaking. You are biblically grounded in your stand. The church was given its mission by Jesus, to preach the good news in order to bring people to Christ. The church is not, nor should it ever be, a mouthpiece for politics. I will keep all of you in my prayers. You are doing the right thing, even though it may feel scary. Standing up against power is never easy. Hey, Christian over here. First, I love that you have biblical references for what you guys are doing. Second, the idea of comparing Trump to Jesus, no matter the political views of yourself or the pastor, is quite honestly blasphemous, so you're 100% doing the right thing. And third, you might not be old enough to vote yet, but here's the thing, if you have conviction about anything, get passionate. In this case, get mad, rock the boat, and use your voice. It's what we're called to do. Will it be difficult and scary sometimes? Yeah, absolutely, but things that matter often are. So what I'm saying is you kids absolutely rock. You're far better examples of Christ-like behavior than your pastor is giving out right now, and mad respect for that. Remember Joshua 1:9 and God's command as you kids do this, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Check out these videos if you need just a bit more Reddit action.